A high-stakes meeting between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Russian President Vladimir Putin takes place at Russia's Vostochny Cosmodrome, with the two men seemingly keen on developing space and military cooperation. North Korea launched more ballistic missiles into the East Sea today, notably with the absence of the regime's leader, which is very unusual. And President Yoon has carried out another partial cabinet shakeup for a policy drive renewal. Ruling party lawmaker Shin Won-sik has been tapped as the new defense minister and special presidential advisor Yoo In-chun as the new minister of culture. It's September 13, 2023. This is News Center. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. We begin this evening with the high-stakes meeting between North Korea's Kim Jong-un and his Russian counterpart, Putin, for the first time in more than 4 years. Their meeting took place at a spaceport in the Russian Far East. For more on this, we have our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji on the line. Eun-ji, give us the latest.
Jung-min, like you just said, Kim and Putin met at a spaceport in Russia, the Vostochny Cosmodrome. Sitting next to Putin, Kim said Russia is fighting a, quote, sacred war against hegemonic forces, and stressed that his regime would fight together in the battle against imperialism.
We have constantly expressed our full and unconditional support for all the decisions taken by the President and the Russian leadership. And I want to assure you that we will always be together with Russia in the fight against imperialism.
He also noted that their meeting is being held in the heart of Russia's space power. Putin thanked Kim for accepting Russia's invitation, saying they have a lot to discuss.
Of course, we need to discuss the issues of economic cooperation and humanitarian issues, as well as the situation in the region. We have a lot of issues to discuss.
There were no words on a weapons deal, but when asked by a reporter whether Russia would help North Korea launch its own satellites and rockets, Putin responded by saying, "That's exactly why we're here." He added that Kim showed great interest in rocket engineering. The remarks come as North Korea twice failed to launch reconnaissance satellites in the past 4 months.
And Eun-ji, before they sat down for talks, the two leaders were seen touring the Space Center. Why does it matter that Kim and Putin are meeting at this specific location, and what can we tell from this?
Well, Jung-min, located not far from the Russian border with China, Vostochny Cosmodrome is a symbol of Russia's ambitions as a space power. From Pyongyang, Kim traveled to the spaceport by rail aboard his private armored train. The space launch facility came into service in 2016 when Russia launched its Soyuz 2 rocket. Last month, the country launched another rocket carrying the Luna 25 moon spacecraft, which failed and crashed into the moon. Russian media has reported that Putin showed Kim around the building where Russia's new space booster, the Angara, is assembled. The fact that they chose this place for the summit suggests that North Korea and Russia will enhance security cooperation. Putin may offer satellite launch technology to Kim in exchange for North Korean weapons and ammunition. This has been sparking concerns regarding Russia's resupplying of weapons for the war in Ukraine and the development of North Korea's missile capabilities. That's all I have for now this hour. Back to you, Jung-min.
All right, our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji, thank you. And just ahead of the Kim-Putin summit, North Korea fired more ballistic missiles toward the East Sea. This launch is the first to take place while Kim Jong-un has not been in North Korea. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung tells us what's behind its intention.
Just over an hour before North Korean leader Kim Jong-un met Russian President Vladimir Putin in Russia, North Korea fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles toward the East Sea. Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff announced Wednesday that the 2 missiles were fired between 11:43 and 11:53 a.m., each flying around 650 kilometers from North Korea's Sunan region. The launch is believed to be the first to take place while Kim has been away.
It is very unusual for North Korea to launch SRBMs while Kim Jong-un is in another country. In the broader sense, it shows that Kim never neglects security issues, even when he is away from North Korea.
Likewise, experts believe the launch is aimed at conveying that the regime is confident in its military readiness, even without the leader's presence. Professor Yang also said that we cannot rule out the possibility that the launch could have come in response to a possible surveillance flight near the North's airspace, carried out by the U.S. on the occasion of Kim's visit to Russia.
Looking at North Korea's SRBM launches up until now that flew about 300 to 700 kilometers, most of them were launched during Seoul-Washington military exercises or when U.S. reconnaissance aircraft operated close to North Korea's exclusive economic zone.
The South Korean military said it is maintaining its full readiness stance through close cooperation with the U.S. It also strongly condemned Pyongyang's successive ballistic missile launches, calling them acts of provocation that undermine peace on the Korean peninsula and beyond. During phone talks, the top nuclear envoys of South Korea, U.S., and Japan denounced the regime's provocation, saying it is a clear violation of many UN Security Council resolutions and a serious threat to regional peace and stability. Choi Min-dong, Arirang News.
Following President Yoon's multilateral diplomacy at the ASEAN and G20 summits last week, and growing tensions on the peninsula and around the world, especially at a time when North Korea looks to expand its collaboration with Russia, a veteran South Korean diplomat weighs in on what Seoul should do in line with its value-based diplomacy. Our Oh Soo-young had a chance to talk to him.
South Korea must continue to take a principled approach to security and diplomacy as its scope of global interest expands beyond the Korean peninsula. That's according to An Ho-young, former South Korean ambassador to the United States. First, as Seoul faces a nuclear North Korea that appears to be aligning with China and Russia, and said the Camp David summit between the leaders of Seoul, Washington and Tokyo last month came at a crucial time as they forged a three-way approach to regional and economic security and engagement with other Indo-Pacific countries.
When I talk about the timing, we should be thinking about the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And then now, Chairman Kim Jong-un is coming to visit Russia. And then they talk about exchanges of arms for high technology, for missiles, for submarines, nuclear submarines, and satellites. And then what China is doing in our part of the world, in East China Sea, in South China Sea, putting them all together, this in fact is a very challenging time.
Though under pressure from Beijing, An says Seoul must continue to act in line with its core values.
That is to say, liberal democracy, human rights, rule of law. We in fact must let China understand that we in fact are very much interested in continuing to develop relationship with China, but we will have to do it on our own core values and on the basis of mutual respect and on the basis of mutual benefit. And I think Yoon government, President Yoon government, has been very consistent in conveying that message to China. These days, I'm under the impression that Beijing begins to understand what President Yoon's approach is to Beijing.
While pushing for a trilateral summit with Tokyo and Beijing, President Yoon last week pressed China to contain North Korea's weapons program and warned against military cooperation with Pyongyang ahead of Kim Jong-un's meeting with Vladimir Putin. Yoon further said unilateral actions to change the status quo in the South China Sea are unacceptable, and Russia's invasion of Ukraine is unlawful. In light of ideological divisions seen among the G20 members, Seoul's active push for global norms and cooperation has fueled talk of the Group of Seven possibly expanding to a G9.
And I think given that reality, I think there should be renewed understanding about the importance of G7. What I find interesting is this idea of Korea and Australia joining G7. That idea, in fact, is being discussed more often in Washington, D.C., rather than in Seoul. That's something I find interesting.
The former ambassador at large for the G20 says he is encouraged by Yoon's multilateral diplomacy and multi-million-dollar pledges to tackle the global climate crisis and reconstruct Ukraine.
Well, Korea as a nation has developed enormously over the past 70 years. And then I think the basic orientation of the country has been opening up, liberalization and engagement. That, in fact, has the overall direction of the country. And then I think we must keep on doing that.
The diplomat said he hopes to see South Korea lead by example for global peace and development, particularly as it aims to host the 2030 World Expo in Vatican City, sharing the country's journey, growth and vision for a sustainable future as a global pivotal state. Joseon, Arirang News.
The nation is holding a commemorative ceremony on September 26 to mark the 75th Armed Forces Day. Around 10,000 people will be there at Seoul Air Base, including foreign Korean War veterans. It will involve around 6,700 troops and 340 pieces of military equipment. 27 of the latest homegrown weapons, the KF-21 fighter jet, the long-range surface-to-air missiles, will be on display to the public for the first time. In the afternoon, for the first time in 10 years, a large-scale military parade will take place in the streets of central Seoul. This year's event is held under the theme, Strong Military, Strong Security, and Peace Through Strengths. The presidential office has announced nominees to replace 3 ministers as part of the administration's ongoing cabinet reshuffle. Ruling party lawmaker Shin Won-sik has been tapped as new defense minister, among others. Kim Do-yeon has the details.
The presidential office announced on Wednesday new nominees to replace the ministers for defense, culture, and gender equality. As new defense minister, a current lawmaker of the ruling People Power Party, Shin Won-sik, has been nominated. He currently serves as the party's vice chairperson on the National Assembly National Defense Committee after retiring as a lieutenant general following 35 years of service in the army.
He has experience in both military policy and operations, and so he'll be better positioned to strengthen our security capabilities to respond to North Korea's rising missile and nuclear threats, while being a perfect fit to Finnish Defense Innovation 4.0.
I'll do my best to make a military that befits our soldiers' army.
The change in the role comes after outgoing Defense Minister Lee Jong-suk reportedly expressed his intention to resign, as the main opposition Democratic Party of Korea had shown signs to impeach him, alleging he exercised improper influence over a military investigation into the death of a young Marine. The presidential office shot down this allegation, with an official explaining that Lee had served for a period as minister that is considered to be a normal term. Shin has expressed critical views of the military's current readiness, noting recently that it needs to prepare for constant violations by North Korea of the 2018 Inter-Korean Military Agreement and Pyongyang's possible nullification of the pact. For Culture Minister, the current presidential advisor for culture and sports, Yoon has been nominated. The actor-turned-politician previously served a 3-year term in the same post from 2008 during Lee Myung-bak administration.
The most important thing is how we can improve the people's lives, and the culture sector will do its best to perform its role in this.
To head the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family, Kim Hang, a former member of the People Power Party's Emergency Committee and a presidential spokesperson for former President Park Geun-hye, has been nominated. The presidential office is pushing to abolish this ministry and to transfer its work to other relevant ministries. It explained that Kim was a perfect person to take on this job while the ministry is in its transitional phase. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
A special presidential envoy will visit the Vatican City this week upon the 60th year of diplomatic ties between South Korea and the Holy City. The top office said Wednesday that President Yoon Suk-yeol will send Kang Seung-kyu, senior presidential secretary for civil society, to deliver his gratitude to the Vatican for being the first to dispatch a diplomatic envoy to Seoul and contributing to the United Nations recognition of the Korean government's legitimacy in 1948. Kang will meet with Cardinal Lazaro Yu-Hung-sik, prefect of the Congregation for the Clergy of the Holy See, during his 5-day visit. He will attend a mass to commemorate the installation of a sculpture of the first Korean Catholic priest, Andrew Kim Dae-gon, at St. Peter's Basilica. In other news, well over 5,000 lives are believed to have been lost in Libya after heavy downpours broke 2 dams and swept away homes in the eastern city of Derna. Yoon reports.
The eastern Libyan city of Derna, located 300 kilometers east of Benghazi, was hit with heavy rains over the weekend from the Mediterranean storm Daniel. Libya's National Meteorological Center said there was a record 414.1 millimeters of rain from Sunday to Monday. At least 2,300 people have been reported dead, while over 10,000 are reported missing.
Humanitarian situation in Derna is very much compromised. There are more than 2,000 death cases, 7,000 stranded families. Those need to be still assisted. More than 40,000 internally displaced persons.
Heavy rains caused rivers to swell, 2 dams and 4 bridges to collapse, submerging much of the city. The death toll continues to soar as many bodies remain trapped under rubble or washed out into the Mediterranean Sea. Military personnel have been deployed and foreign aid has also arrived, but rescue workers are struggling to enter the city for further rescue efforts. Libya is often hit with flooding during the rainy season, but rarely with destruction of this level. As well as the intensity of Storm Daniel, the vulnerability of the poorly maintained infrastructure is seen to have worsened the casualties. The country's division between 2 rival governments has left many areas of the country's maintenance neglected. Yoon, Arirang News.
Employment here in Korea expanded in August by over 260,000 on year, but there's been fewer jobs yet again in the manufacturing and for young adults. Park Gon-woo has the details.
Employment figures in August saw an increase on month for the first time in 5 months. According to data released by Statistics Korea on Wednesday, around 28.67 million people were in employment last month, a jump of 268,000 on year. South Korea has seen on-year jobs increases for the past 30 months. However, on-month increases dropped each month from April to July. An official from Statistics Korea said that figures rebounded in August after heavy rain in July caused employment numbers to slip. By sector, the health and welfare industry saw the biggest increase caused by higher welfare demands from the country's aging population. This was followed by the accommodation and restaurant sector. Manufacturing saw employment figures fall for the 8th straight month, while the wholesale and retail sectors also recorded on-year decreases. By age, the biggest on-year jump was for those aged 60 and above, with about 30,000 jobs added. However, jobs for young adults under 30 tumbled again in August, dropping for the 10th month in a row since last November. The number of workers in their 40s also fell year on year for the 14th consecutive month. And the employment rate for workers aged between 15 and 64 rose 0.7 percentage points on year to 69.6%, the highest for any month of August since records were first compiled in 1989. South Korea's total unemployment rate dropped 0.1 percentage point from last year to 2%, the lowest since June 1999. Park Gon-woo, Arirang News.
South Korea is among many countries around the world aiming to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050, with goals to reduce emissions by nearly half by 2030. And it's in line with this goal that the country is hosting a large-scale hydrogen exhibition presenting alternatives to fossil fuels. Our Moon Hyun went to find out more.
Around a quarter of all carbon reduction by 2050 is predicted to be achieved through the use of hydrogen, which set the tone for this year's H2 meet. Starting on Wednesday through to Friday, it's the biggest hydrogen-related exhibition in the world and is hosted by South Korea every year.
Exhibitions like this are getting bigger and bigger every year as countries aim to go carbon neutral. This year's turnout is the biggest yet, with 280 companies from 17 countries in attendance.
During the opening ceremony, the second Vice Minister of the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy spoke of the importance of global cooperation for hydrogen alternatives to fossil fuels as the world grapples with extreme weather and global warming.
In order to build a clean, hydrogen-centered ecosystem that can contribute to greenhouse gas reduction substantially, We will establish a clean hydrogen certification system within the year and secure a stable supply chain through global cooperation.
South Korea is currently dominating the global hydrogen auto industry with a market share of over 35%. However, according to market research company SNE Research, hydrogen-fueled cars are lagging with a nearly 10% decline in sales between January and July this year compared to the same period last year. This has been attributed to the lack of necessary infrastructure such as charging stations as well as high storage and distribution costs. As a result, companies are seeking to make hydrogen cheaper and more accessible. Hyundai Motor's business model is to collect food waste as a source of hydrogen to lower production costs and make hydrogen truly net zero. Steel manufacturer POSCO has developed new hydrogen fuel tanks made of thin steel strips that can be recycled after usage to replace the traditional carbon-based fuel tanks, and storage cylinders made of stronger steel with a lower production cost than the original. Hanwha Group showcased its integrated value chain for producing, storing and distributing clean hydrogen.
We will be shipping hydrogen using our ships from Hanwha Ocean and storing hydrogen using our hydrogen tanks, which are the biggest in the world.
As South Korea slowly phases out grey hydrogen produced from fossil fuels to clean hydrogen, the government and domestic companies hope to further research and development to help them achieve their carbon neutrality goals. Moon Hae-ryan, Arirang News.
Hwarot, the traditional royal bridal gown from the Joseon dynasty, is a timeless symbol of the dynasty's grace and poise. A special exhibition showcasing the beauty of Hwarot is set to take visitors on a journey through the world of this royal dress. Our Shin Se-byuk gives us a glimpse.
Draped in vibrant crimson and adorned with delicate embroidery, these are the Hwarot, bridal robes worn by the women of the Joseon dynasty's royal court. They are crafted using safflower dye that's harvested in August. They are dyed numerous times, resulting in the deepest and purest shade of red. As they're meticulously embroidered in a variety of colors and elegantly finished with touches of gold. The National Palace Museum of Korea in central Seoul is holding a special exhibition starting on September 15th, showcasing various hwarots and the tools used at royal weddings during the Joseon dynasty. Featured in this exhibition are 9 hwarot pieces, 3 in Korea and 6 from American museums such as the Field Museum in Chicago and Brooklyn Museum in New York. In particular, the hwarot from the Los Angeles County Museum of Art has recently undergone conservation treatment thanks to RM, a member of K-pop sensation BTS. RM donated 100 million Korean won, or roughly $75,000 last year, to the Overseas Korean Cultural Heritage Foundation in support of the preservation and restoration of Korea's cultural heritage abroad. The hwarot worn by Princess Bogun, the second-born daughter of King Sunjo, is also on display. It is the only surviving example where the wearer is actually known. In this exhibition, interactive touchscreen displays offer a close-up view of the beautiful embroidery, featuring motifs like phoenixes and flowers. Visitors can immerse themselves in the essential spaces of royal weddings and explore the various tools and materials used in crafting hwarot. The organizer hopes this exhibition can provide visitors with a deeper appreciation of traditional royal wedding culture.
I wish visitors could gain a deeper understanding of those who wore hwarot and share meaningful moments that bridge the past to the present.
The exhibition, Blooming Hwarot, Bridal Robes of the Joseon Royal Court, will run until December 15th. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
A low-pressure system will be dropping autumnal showers across the nation. If you take a look at the satellite imagery, a group of rain clouds are currently covering much of South Korea. Despite the rain, central regions will see temperatures rising a tad tomorrow. For Seoul, highs will be 4 degrees higher than today at 28 degrees Celsius. Places like Jeonju will also see warmer spells than today. Fluctuating weather patterns are expected for the next few days, with highs dropping and rising back and forth. Under such conditions, our bodies become more vulnerable to viruses, so please take extra care of your health. As for the overall amount of rainfall, eastern Gangwon-do province will see heavy downpours of up to 100 millimeters. The south of the country, including Jeollado and Gyeongsang-do provinces, will see 10 to 60. Parts of Chungcheong-do province will see up to 70 millimeters. The Seoul metropolitan area and Jeju Island will see about 10 to 40. And rainy spells will dominate nationwide. Seoul and Daejeon will be starting off at 21 degrees. Daytime highs in Seoul will peak at 28, Daejeon and Gwangju 27, Gyeongju will be reaching 25 degrees. For the remainder of the week, frequent showers are in the forecast until Sunday. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that is News Center for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session coming up.